إيمان وايلة أكسيدنت اتنرابا ناشا ليطي متبال سلطة شكلي اتلا نسيانة بدانا كيسس injury law و بيالباية قريمة إن آتن ينكل باتت بيتا خزموخن يطانة اتلوخن بوقارة مخبرون المنيان التلفون 8 أربع شوا وشا 8 تري وشا 5 خا إشتا يعني توكن بيت injuryrights.com شمي إلى توني كالاغراكس كي يمزمن لشان خلية يما
Welcome to Assyrian National Council of Illinois. Where we provide home care services for the elderly 60 years and older. For over 20 years, ANCI has worked closely with the state of Illinois to strengthen and expand our home care program. We currently service the Chicagoland area, including Cook, Kane, and DuPage counties. If you are interested in finding out more about our home care services, please visit us at our Chicago or Streamwood office.
Okay, نتوالي فرصة قمضانا سبب we were running a little bit late. It's one technical issues قدمتها with the Assyrian Arts Institute. But I want to introduce and welcome you guys all to our 90th Assyrian National Convention education programs. These programs really celebrate the diverse array of our knowledge and experiences that define our Assyrian community at its core. And our convention this year really showcases a wide spectrum of these programs. You know, from advocacy and future strategies aimed at strengthening our nation to initiatives that promote health and career success within our community. We also dive into the exploration and connection to our homeland and the unwavering support for education there, as this panel will explore, as well as fostering creativity through arts and embracing the transformative power of STEM education and meditation. I really do want to emphasize that the success of our convention includes, including the insightful contributions of our speakers, but mostly relies greatly on your participation. Your engagement, questions, and shared experiences through these discussions really foster that sense of unity and progress, which is at the heart of our mission. So let's embark on this educational journey together. Let us celebrate our advancement in the vibrant spectrum of the knowledge and experiences presented this weekend, and our determination to shape a brighter future. We also deeply, deeply appreciate all our volunteers who are here to make this all happen. So without further ado, we will start with the Assyrian Aid Society's lecture presentation on the impact of education in our homeland.
Shalom aleichem. B'shwayim tonight, Koya? Yeah, okay, Rabbi Spike. Shalom aleichem. Tana b'Suri to English. I'll be going back and forth. Ana Iwan Rania Benjamin Rania Benjamin. Dabran tatsitu dodranet Emerita.
اتنرابا ناشا إيمان وايلة أكسيدنت اتنرابة ناشة ليطي متبال سلطة قد شكلي اتلا نسيانة بدنا كيسز الانجري لو و بيالباية قريمة إن آتن ينكل بتت بيتا خزموخن يطانة اتلوخن بوقارة مخبرون المنيان التلفون 8 أربع شوا وچا 8 تري وچا 5 خا إشتا يعني توكن بيت injuryrights.com شمي إلى توني كالغراكس كيام زمن لشان خلية يما
Welcome to Assyrian National Council of Illinois. Where we provide home care services for the elderly 60 years and older. For over 20 years, ANCI has worked closely with the state of Illinois to strengthen and expand our home care program. We currently service the Chicagoland area, including Cook, Kane, and DuPage counties. If you are interested in finding out more about our home care services, please visit us at our Chicago or Streamwood office.
Okay, نتوالي فرصة قمدانا سبب we were running a little bit late. It's one technical issues قدمتها with the Assyrian Arts Institute. But I want to introduce and welcome you guys all to our 90th Assyrian National Convention education programs. These programs really celebrate the diverse array of our knowledge and experiences that define our Assyrian community at its core. And our convention this year really showcases a wide spectrum of these programs. You know, from advocacy and future strategies aimed at strengthening our nation to initiatives that promote health and career success within our community. We also dive into the exploration and connection to our homeland and the unwavering support for education there, as this panel will explore, as well as fostering creativity through arts and embracing the transformative power of STEM education and meditation. I really do want to emphasize that the success of our convention includes, including the insightful contributions of our speakers, but mostly relies greatly on your participation. Your engagement, questions, and shared experiences through these discussions really foster that sense of unity and progress, which is at the heart of our mission. So let's embark on this educational journey together. Let us celebrate our advancement in the vibrant spectrum of the knowledge and experiences presented this weekend, and our determination to shape a brighter future. We also deeply, deeply appreciate all our volunteers who are here to make this all happen. So without further ado, we will start with the Assyrian Aid Society's lecture presentation on the impact of education in our homeland.
Shalom aleichem. B'shwayim tonight, Koyan? Yeah, okay, Rabbi fine. Shalom aleichem. Tana Bisuri to English. I'll be going back and forth. أنا إيوان رانيا بنيامن رانيا بنجامين دبران تسيتو تدرانة أمريكا. أمان إلى نتالي بابيلا, Vice President at the Assyrian Aid Society of America, و Ashurina Ibrahim, President at Khamin Pawa Dian, it's LA chapter. Assyrian Aid Society of America's LA chapter. أويتون ربا باسيمة at شركة أمام أوديو, but Assyrian Aid Society إلى خشو تاسة شو تسلقت تلاي 12 عادي تلاي 3 بخلتها. So وشد بت همزمخ بت خشمة بالخانة ويدخ وشما زويز الشدرخ بس من شارة بتين وخنقت هالعادية شدرخ 18 مليون من شتست سيتو دورانا. We've sent back home $18 million. So there's, as you can imagine, there's a lot to cover with what we've the donations that we've sent back home. But within the hour, we're just going to kind of give a brief view of everything that we have done and a little bit of focus on education. So who is the Assyrian Aid Society? Assyrian Aid Society of America was established to support our, closer, how about now? Is that better? بشمايت هون ميقراني نو استمرتي بشمايت براي. Okay. So Assyrian Aid Society of America was established to support our sister organization, Assyrian Aid of Iraq. Assyrian Aid of Iraq is the one that implements all the projects in the homeland, and we are here to be their financial aid. We have other sister organizations not tied to us at all, but we have the same mission to support Assyrian Aid of Iraq, and those are Assyrian Aid of Canada, Assyrian Aid of Australia, and in Europe as well. So our mission is helping Assyrians in need, promoting Assyrian cultural and heritage, and focusing the attention of the U.S. on humanitarian crises that's happening in the homeland. So just briefly, and we're a 501c3 organization, of course. So this is our mission, and we'll go through on how we accomplish this mission. We are a volunteer-based organization. We're all volunteers here. We have Miqurta Karmala Burshan is a board member in Marmat Idach. And we have the former president of Assyrian Aid of America, Dr. Antoine Varani, with us as well. And amongst you, you'll see a lot of volunteers. We have Roxana Reyes, the president of the Michigan chapter. I'm not seeing everybody, but please raise your hand if you're involved with the Assyrian Aid Society. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, sure.
Shireen, Yohanna, the president of the Turlock Central Valley chapter.
Arizona folks over there.
Arizona, Soraba Itlan, very impactful organization spread throughout the U.S. I'm sorry if I missed anybody. Okay, and so where do we work? We primarily work in Erbil, Nuhadra, and Nineveh Plain, Nuhadra or Jahok, as you may have heard it, and Nineveh Plain, Dashtid Nineveh. However, we have had a lot of projects in Baghdad and Kirkuk as there is the need. Primarily, our population is in the north, that's why we're focused there, but we do help in Baghdad and Kirkuk. And then as crises arise, we have helped in our Bnei Umtan in Armenia and in Lebanon as well.
Okay, what we do. So Assyrian Aid, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, so I think this may be a refresher for a lot of folks here. But we do have a lot of information and updates to share, and hopefully we can open it up to questions too. So AES is primarily supported by individual donations. We work with a lot of both local and international organizations who are funding certain projects in Iraq. So we are one of the main partners, or we call it our sister organization, the Assyrian Aid Society of Iraq. In 2022, 93 cents of every dollar that was donated to Assyrian Aid of America was directly funding projects in Iraq. If you're familiar with nonprofits here in America, that's a very good percentage. Our administrative costs are very low, considering that we're doing a lot of work, that it is volunteer time, but we do have minimal fees, of course, that we have to pay and costs for our administrative work. Some of the areas that we focus on, and it's not limited to just this, but these are the main categories. It's obviously humanitarian aid, which is part of our mission, and it's the reason why we were founded in the beginning. Education, medicine, infrastructure, and business, cultural projects, and also humanitarian, what we call humanitarian advocacy, and we'll get into all of them very shortly. So humanitarian aid, as I said, after the first Gulf War, there was a dire need of, just getting shelter, food, hygiene products to our people in the north of Iraq due to all the, it's a war-torn country, right? So we had to provide a lot in the very beginning and in 1991. So some of the needs that we have addressed over the years, again, highlighting the main, maybe some of the main things and some examples, food and hygiene distribution. We still do that because we do have a lot of needy people in certain villages, in certain areas. And as you may know, maybe it's not as easy to find job opportunities there. So they do tend to have larger families there as well. So, you know, the food is still a necessity for a lot of families there. Generators with fuel. Certain villages, you know, in the north of Iraq, it gets really cold there. There's snow. Unfortunately, the local government there does not provide the necessary funding, the electricity to, you know, continue these projects. So we do have to provide fuel for generators. You know, we have to rebuild water networks because water doesn't get to the villages. You know, so that's one. Medicine, and we'll get into this as well. Medicine is, we offer it free of, you know, free, no cost to anybody. And baby diaper and milk distribution, we've done that before many a times. And we see this as aid because a lot of families don't have, you know, money to buy gifts for kids. So I put this on here because we have a lot of donors who do intentionally donate towards this project on a yearly basis.
So the title of our talk, education. And it's one of the most exciting programs that we've had, and that's educating 2,100 students in 26 schools in our language. So with the establishment of the no-fly zone in 1991, we took the advantage of establishing schools where that was not a possibility in the prior regime. And so this has been our primary focus. Because it does require a lot to continue this program. So to be able to continue this program, there's you need to be accredited. It is a public school, and we'll go through how we come in to ensure the continuation of this program since 1992. So currently there's 2,100 students, like I said, 26 schools, all being taught by Assyrian teachers in the Assyrian language, all Assyrian students. It's really impressive. I mean, chemistry, science, you've probably heard it before, right? But, you know, we get goosebumps every time we see it, right, when we visit the homeland. And we provide transportation to the teachers, to the instructors, but, you know, I'll go through some of what we do to maintain the educational program. So like I said, the 26 schools are government schools, they're public schools. 2 of them were built by the Assyrian Aid Society because there was a lack and the government was not filling that void. And so we did, I think one of them was in Nala, the other one was in Semele. Those were built by the Assyrian Aid Society and donations from the diaspora. So one of the areas that's very critical is ensuring that our textbooks are in par with the current curriculum. So as you know, even here in the US, every time a single page changes in a textbook, it has to be reprinted. The textbook has to be reprinted for that school to be accredited. So every time a textbook is changed, or you know, a line or whatever it is, we have an educational committee that's set up that translates the books. And you know, for maybe not all of us here, but a lot of us, I think, textbook script and you know the versus our spoken Assyrian is 2 different things. So you do need a committee of expertise that can translate these books, and then printing the books as well. This should be government funded. Unfortunately, it's not, right? And if we don't do it and we don't comply by the translation of the new books, then our schools are shut down. So this is something that's very important. It comes up almost annually, and currently actually there is a we were sent a request for $7,500 for this translation committee to come together to translate new books that have come up and to print them as well for these students. So this is an ongoing thing that we do to maintain our schools, right, since 1992. We also pay for lecturers. So a lot of people ask, you know, if these are government-funded schools or they're government public schools, these are, why are you paying for the teachers? So 25% of the instructors are paid fully by Assyrian Aid Society. So I differentiate them by calling the first group teachers and the second group instructors or lecturers. The teachers are government employees. The others are not. And so when you have subject matter expertise like chemistry or biology, sometimes there's a lack of a chemistry teacher that can be employed in every single of those 26 schools. So we hire those teachers again so that we can be accredited and continue the education. We hire those 93 instructors. We pay for their salaries and we also pay for their transportation so that we're not paying for one chemistry teacher just to teach in one school. We pay for them to rotate around schools just to be more efficient. Next thing that we've done is providing hands-on experience for these students. I mean, a couple of years ago, they were learning computer from a textbook, with pictures of computers and pictures of a keyboard. And they were learning, I mean, if you took any sciences in high school even, you have the molecular set, the skeleton, we had that privilege, right? They didn't. Everything was from a 2D, from a textbook. So we're really excited. We were really excited a couple of years ago to provide computer labs. And then in the past couple of years, we're so excited to provide these science labs. And the teachers are so excited that they're able to actually have a tangible, a heart or skeleton or molecular set for their students to utilize. The physical condition of the schools is poor. They're not taken care of. We're a minority and we're neglected there. So our schools are not taken care of. So that's a huge task that we take on as well. You'll have leaks. Winters are cold, summers are hot, right? So you need to make sure that the school is properly insulated. We've visited in years past where there's cracked windows, broken concrete, like huge safety hazards, right? So we implement a lot of rehab projects to ensure that our schools are presentable, are safe for our students, and just a welcoming environment for our students to be in.
Healthcare. So, I'm sorry, I'm just going to use it for some of the statistics. So healthcare, there are a few ways that people are getting healthcare there. So there's either government-run hospitals, but those are minimal services that they provide to patients. So, a basic checkup, but you have to pay for the extra screenings and all of that, and they don't cover any medicine. So if you go to the government-run hospitals, they're in the major cities. So people who are living remote villages won't have access. Unless they are driving 2-3 hours just to get to a hospital. There is, opportunity that if you are employed through a company or something, you could get insurance. But again, those are, it's few in number. The other option is if you're purchasing insurance, so private insurance. But as you can imagine, that's very expensive for people there, so they won't have access to that. So, since inception, we realized that, it was important to at least, the least that we can do is get medicine to our people at either a minimal cost or no cost at all. So we do have our main pharmacy is in the Assyrian Aid Society headquarters building in Nuhadra, also known as Duhok. And in 2005, post-ISIS invasion, there were a lot of internally displaced Assyrians, people in our community who were uprooted from their homes in the Nineveh Plain. So, they had to migrate to places like Duhok, right, the main city, and Assyrian Aid did actually open up a camp in the main cities for these internally displaced people, Shios, right? Thank you. In order for people to, live there, and so we had to create something, a makeshift, hospital, so to speak. So we called it the mobile clinic. It was funded by Assyrian European organization, if I'm not mistaken, in the beginning, the first few years. And Assyrian Aid of Iraq realized that, wow, we're impacting a lot of people, and the Assyrian community love these services that we're providing. So, they have been requesting that we cover the expenses each month. And, of course, with our generous donors here in the diaspora, some churches, other, nonprofit organizations that have been so kind in donating, it costs approximately, I'll give you an example, $8,000 a month. And there's a doctor that you see in the picture here. He is a full-time doctor, but he is traveling with this mobile clinic about 6 to 8 times a month, sometimes more. So they make what we call field visits in certain villages. We do also have a pharmacist that goes in, with the mobile clinic. He's, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of him in the slide. He has been with the organization since inception. He still works there. I saw him this year when we went. He pretty much has patient records, and he knows, which patients, what kind of medicine they need. So with the medicine, Assyrian Aid Society of Iraq does purchase them from, the local pharmacies there, and we give them to our patients at no cost. So we are impacting about 600 to 800 people a month when we are running this program. And mainly the visits happen in Nul Hadra and the Nineveh Governance. Sorry, I have to do both. Okay, so infrastructure and business. Sorry, thank you. So we have, this is, again, just an overview of the certain projects that we've done over the years. I mean, you name it, we've done everything. Construction, public works, irrigation system. We recently, had to do one in Dure Berwer, which was about 2 miles. Street lighting is very important. In a lot of the villages in the north, there is no lighting in the streets. Again, local government doesn't provide, they don't cover the expenses for these items. So we have started doing that in certain villages, and then other villages hear about it and they're like, well, we want street lights as well. And this is very important for us because unfortunately accidents do happen, a lot of car accidents, especially if there's no lighting in the streets. So this has been a very important project for us the past few years. And as I said, once one village hears about it, the requests start coming in from other villages. Agriculture, right, it's a fertile land. So, the main projects that we have in the north in the villages is agriculture. Of course, there are many issues with selling, their agriculture in local markets and whatnot, but it's still important to us. It is the livelihood of a lot of our people in the north. So we have a lot of agricultural projects that we do, and construction of electric networks. That's also been very important. So over the years, we've also been funding, we're supporting all these villages and families. Each family, we sometimes count maybe at least 5 people per family. So the past few years, we've provided a lot of economic relief through funding of businesses, right? Due to families returning from the diaspora, and want to maybe continue life in Iraq, or they're internally displaced and they want to go back to their homes because there has been some peace in certain areas. So because of that, we wanted to start a microloan project, which I will briefly touch upon. We have started it. We're calling it our pilot program. So for now, we're funding about 5 to 6 businesses, if I'm not mistaken, under $6,000 each. And it's for them to start their own business and create their own life. And how the project works is they submit a proposal to Assyrian Aid, and 75% of that loan that we're giving them, they have to pay it back within 2.5 years, and 25% of the funding that we give to them is a forgivable loan, meaning it's a grant for them, we're not going to request it back. It's been going wonderful so far. We have an engineer, young engineer. Her name is Durana, and she, I met her this year. She's wonderful. She has experience with this project for other NGOs. So she's been spearheading this effort. But because of this, I think she has more than like 30, 40 applications that are in the pipeline, and people have heard about this and they want to, apply to get the funding. So this is wonderful. I put 2 examples of the the individuals that we funded. This gentleman, 38 years old, from Inishke village, and he has a sheep breeding project. So of course, a lot of the villages have farms, and this is their bread and butter. So this is one of them. And then this gentleman, 52 years old, he has beehives, 150 it looks like. And so, right, they're producing honey, maybe selling it to local markets. So it's their livelihood. Okay, and the next, one of the next major projects that we've done, and we hope to do a lot more, we've done a lot of home renovations over the past 32 plus years. But this was an effort that we spearheaded in 2020. I kind of want to tell you about Chaqalla, which is in Berber, just to show you how important it is, for us to support projects like this. As a result of the Kurdish uprisings in 1961, Assyrians were uprooted from their homes in that area. 30 years later, they attempted to return after an establishment of a no-fly zone in northern Iraq, and at that point, neighboring, villages, people from neighboring villages had encroached the Assyrian-owned land. So again, they failed. And in 2002, Assyrian Aid, we funded the Atsra project. We planted over 8,000 apple trees across the lower Chaqalla region. And the neighboring villages did not allow water to flow through the region. So Assyrian Aid, we established a drip irrigation network to water the farms. In 2016, the region continued to face aggression. The lands were burnt, including 4,000 apple trees, 1,000 grapevines, 1,000 almond trees, 100 olive trees, and 100 fig trees. Yet again, we restored the drip irrigation system again so that they can rebuild, work on their crops again. And so in 2020, Assyrian Aid of Iraq reached out to us again and said, listen, the people of that land, a lot of them live in Duhok, the main city. It's about 2 hours away. Mm-hmm. About 2 hours away. They live in Nuhadra, and they have to drive on the weekends, take care of their homes, and then they drive back. They drive for a few days. They stayed in a local school or something because they didn't have homes at that point. And then they would drive back after a few days, and they would kind of take turns, the farmers, because not all the families can stay in that school all at the same time. So we took this project. It cost, we had many generous donors. I think Assyrian Cultural Foundation funded in the beginning, and then we had a lot of generous donors who contributed to the project. We built 6 homes, and as you can see, this is the completed home that I have put up here. And we called it the Rebuilding Assyria campaign. It was in memory of one of our late directors, Dr. Ruwil Georges, who was a true humanitarian from the Chicago region, and that's something that we wanted to complete in his name. I haven't seen it yet. I think Carmela and Antoine saw it the last time they were there. So we were calling it Rebuilding Assyria, one home at a time. And that's very important to us because it's not about forcing people to stay in the land, right? If they want to stay, which a lot of families do want to stay, we want to equip them with the resources that they need to live a happy, safe, life there. And so that's why it's important for us, safe return of its inhabitants, stop illegal land grabs, because when you're there, nobody's going to come and take it, right? If they try, there are ways that you can kind of push them away. And, we want to empower Assyrians to reap economic benefits from their land, like we've written here. And, word spreads really fast. So if one farmer is doing really well, it's probably going to tell another farmer, hey, I'm doing well, Assyrian Aid is supporting us. So word spreads really fast, and that's why it's been a very important project for us. Hopefully we can do a lot more. As I said, we do have a lot of home renovations that we do, but actually rebuilding a village, we haven't, this was one of our main projects in the past few years. Humanitarian advocacy, this one is also very important. It's part of our mission statement, as Rania mentioned early on. We're implementing all these projects, right? And sometimes we call it's maybe a Band-Aid. We're giving food to the needy, but if they don't have a livelihood, they're not going to stay there. They're going to leave the country. If they don't stay there, kids don't stay there, so our schools will empty. So what's the point of all this? And what do we do going forward? So the advocacy piece, and you see Carmela, one of our executive board members here in the picture, and she's in the audience. She does have a panel, I think it's tomorrow if I'm not mistaken. So she will be talking more about the advocacy work that she's doing for Assyrian Aid Society. Advocacy is just a very broad term. So we understand that we have to remain nonpartisan. So without getting into the politics, we're stating the needs, the humanitarian needs, and the challenges that we're facing as a nation. And that, to bring about systematic change, we really need to, push in any way that we can, bring in for international attention. So Carmela has been, I've listed just a few. She's been talking to a lot of people. It's U.S. government agencies, United Nations agencies, members of Congress, both sides, and other NGOs. So she's been doing a wonderful project. And it takes a lot of time because when you meet with them, they ask, well, let us know, who are Assyrians? Where do they reside? What kind of human rights violations are they facing? So she collaborates a lot with the Assyrian Aid of Iraq and other representatives in the region, to build these connections. And it's that hope. We said that in the beginning. That's what we titled our presentation, Creating Hope, instilling hope. And that's what we have. And that's why this is the work that we do. If we didn't have the hope, none of us would be doing either volunteering or, I'm sure all of you, donating your money and your time. So now we will move on to the next slide, culture or cultural projects.
Thank you, Natalie. Really impactful statements. But I have been getting winks from my husband to speed it along. So no, what you were saying was very important and needed to be heard. So I'll briefly skim through some of our remaining slides, and I do really want to give Ashurina a chance to speak because she has something really important to say. So in terms of cultural, we support, at the end of the day, لنا ناشئ بس نيقة بخايا تاما. They have livelihood. مخديانينا by خملي by خزي ويدالة. And they're sorry Joe, but I'm going to tell a really quick story. My first time visiting, I was not involved with the Assyrian Aid Society. I was involved with the Assyrian Chaldean Syriac Student Union in Canada. And I went and I was like, we're such a good organization. I'm going to go and see how we can, work together and collaborate and maybe teach some of the things that we have from the West over there. And I was shocked, the Chaldo-Assyrian Student and Youth Union, for example, is such a strong, with deep roots. It's one of our grassroots organizations. The Assyrian Aid Society, such a strong organization, our political organizations there. Our people are just really tight-knit and such wonderful community and organizational structure that we have. So we like to support these cultural initiatives that they have. So one of them is supporting the Chaldo-Assyrian Student and Youth Union. They have an annual soccer tournament that's been going on for maybe over 10 years, I think. It's called the Narsei David Soccer Championship, and it typically happens around Khab Nisan. They have another wonderful organization, the Hammurabi Scouts. They have an annual camp that we support, and we collaborate with the Assyrian Women's Union as well, and a lot of wonderful projects that they do. I mean, the Assyrian Women's Union, they go into schools, not just Assyrian schools, non-Assyrian schools, and teach them about human rights, about women's rights, because that all gets transferred into not just that community, but the community-wide, right? Everyone living in that area. So we do collaborate. We are not just solely relying on Assyrian donations or Assyrian community. However, our Assyrian community, especially in the U.S., is wonderful, and it is the main driver behind a lot of the success stories that we have and successful projects. However, there are grants, and there has been more so during the time of ISIS, and the U.S. stepping in to ensure that the minority communities still have still are part of that mosaic of Iraq. We have been part of the Iraqi humanitarian Iraqi Human Rights Defenders, which is a program to support returnees in the Hamdaniya district, so like the Baghdad and around there. And this is people affected by ISIS. The program is providing psychological, social, and legal awareness sessions to the minorities in Hamdaniya, such as survivors for childcare, early child marriage, domestic violence, minorities protection law, divorce law, and so on. This was sensitive when we were applying for this grant because our community, it's not easy for our community to talk about such issues, but it's been very successful, and they've actually invited us for round 2 to apply for round 2 because a lot of our community members anonymously were very sensitive about this project. You probably haven't heard about it, right? But we anonymously we do work with we've hired lawyers, we've hired doctors to help us run this program. And we have recently received a grant through Dr. Elda Benjamin on the with the Antiquities Coalition for cultural heritage education. So our school system, we're bound by the books that we have. So Assyrian history, if you look at the historical books, is not very extensive. It may be a couple of pages. However, the teachers do say that احنا نمقري يخلون بسورة لخ تخمون مولي جوجتاوا مالبخلون ان مديانة قد they, for their state exams that are necessary, but they teach them the historical, the cultural. However, this is a program outside of school because the Department of Education wouldn't allow us to have it, but they're working with a group of expertise. Dr. Nicholas Algilo is part of this group as well, to publish books that they'll be distributing to these students, and they'll be taking them off-site to teach them cultural heritage and preservation and the importance of your land, you being indigenous, why that's important, because our people here may know it, but there it's not something that's taught, right? So being indigenous, why that's important, why land is important, how being indigenous is connected to the land and whatnot. So all of those books are being put together for different age categories, and we plan to reach 1,500 books, 1,500 students with that. So there's many others. We've done like a recycling program, sanitation program in Baghdad area, school supplies, and these are all with US aid and other NGO programs or organizations. This is mine? Yeah. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, $18 million raised so far. This is really impressive for a primarily volunteer-based organization. So since 1992, this is how much we've raised. And really, honestly, like, round of applause to everybody here, because I see a lot of volunteers, like I said, but a lot of donors, a lot of familiar faces who may know some of this information already, but it's truly because of you and your belief in all of the volunteers here, Assyrian Aid of America, but also our sister organization, Assyrian Aid of Iraq, who runs this program so wonderfully. This year to date, we've raised $900,000, and we've sent $900,000 to the homeland. Just some other highlights of Assyrian Aid Society. I won't read them because I think we're running out of time. And I'll now pass it on to Shorina to kind of highlight our chapters and her story and how she got involved.
السلام عليكم. إيوان مشتلانتت سيتت أدرانت أطورايت باوت Los Angeles. I started actually being interested in Assyrian Aid Society at a young age. I worked with my father, who was in Assyrian Aid Society for 10 years, and I kind of lost touch with UMTA, and I isolated myself, but I went on a trip to Atra last year with our partner organization, Gishru, and that reignited the flame for me to help, seeing the children, especially in Atra, and visiting the schools and seeing the amazing textbooks that are all written in Surat, and the children there speaking incredible Surat, teaching me about things like glaciers in Surat, which was incredible. And I really wanted to find a way to help Assyrian Aid, not just through donations, but through volunteer work. And There are 7 chapters throughout the U.S. It's Arizona, Chicago, Central Valley, D.C., Michigan, Los Angeles, and Santa Clara. And they all do amazing work. As Dabranta Miqurta Rania said, $900,000 was raised just this year from Assyrian aid in America. And there's ways to help. That was one of the questions I had when before I went to Gishru, was figuring out how we can help if I see things that would be pretty heartbreaking. I was trying to mentally and emotionally prepare myself, and when I went to Gishru, I kind of saw the answer, to be honest. I saw all the work that Assyrian Aid Society was doing and how impactful it was on the communities there, especially on the children. But volunteer work is incredible, and we're always open to having more volunteers. Also spreading the word about all the work that Assyrian Aid Society does and all the needs that we have as a community in our Atra. And also just participating at our events. We have a couple events coming up and sponsoring. We have a gala in September. Oops.
Sorry, I skipped a few.
Oh.
That's fine, we can jump to it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We have a Mesopotamian night on September 16th in Northern California. We have a gala in the Central Valley on September 30th, and we have an event at the Institute for the Study of Ancient Cultures, formerly known as the Oriental Institute, in October in Chicago. There's also other ways to help. We do have an Adopt a Student program. It's about $50 a month, or like $600 annually if you don't want to do it monthly. And you can always stop by after this presentation's over, and we can always assist with any questions you have on ways to help. We also have a Lifeline Pledge program, and with that, your company may be able to match your donations to Assyrian Aid to make it even more impactful towards our community in Atra. And we have an upcoming project right now that we're working on. We're trying to get economic support for installing a submersible water pump and pipe network. It's going to impact about 10 farmers from 4 different villages in Barwar. As you know, Barwar's situation is very, not that the entire region has a very complicated situation, and it's very difficult for our community there. Barwar right now, I know Miqurta Natalie had mentioned that they had issues with fires being burnt a few years ago, and we're having issues again. So this is going to help impact some of the villages to help the community maintain a livelihood and rebuild after all that they've been through. We also, just like the Gishru trip with our partner Gishru impacted me, Assyrian Aid also does an Atra trip, and it'll be 12 days in Assyria next year. It's very important that we visit the motherland, at least for people my age and younger. I think being born in diaspora, you hear a lot about what goes on in our homelands, and unfortunately for our community, we've faced thousands of years of persecution that it's kind of normalized for us to say that, oh, you know, we've been through genocide and massacres. But when you see it for yourself and you see the community for yourself, it's different. It's heartbreaking. The community is so loving despite all of the devastation that they've faced. And it, like I said earlier, it does reignite that flame and that love for your Umta, and it makes you want to find more ways to assist your own people so that they can stay in their homelands, because a lot of them do want to stay in our homelands. And if you guys have any questions, like I said, we're going to be here for the convention weekend, but you can also visit us and contact us at our address and our phone number. an email. We're also on our social media. If you guys follow us, you can see all the events that we have going on, all the projects that we're working on, and what we've completed. And it's really important that it's really important that we connect and help people in our homeland. So if you have any questions, like I said, we're outside after this, so we'd love to help.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We can open it up to questions now. I think we just have a few minutes or maybe time for a few questions.
Yeah, I always say that Assyrian society is like government for our community. So an hour is not enough for you guys, but we appreciate your time. We'll open up. We have 5 minutes for questions from the audience. So we'll let you hear questions. I don't know why this microphone is not working again. I think this time we're going to talk very far out.
Sure. I'm from the Dutch too. I've been with your organization helping you guys, but you guys used to have a lot of advertising and sending stuff in the 1990s. But we don't see that anymore. So one thing that I want to ask is, how could that be pushed to do the same thing? Because you guys used to have mailing, but not anymore.
But thank you for the feedback. I think just going digital, right, and people just using email a lot more. So that's been our main go-to.
But I have not seen many. I've been part of the case study. I don't get not one email.
Rabbi Dusit,
Yeah,
you're
Dusit,
right.
yeah.
I mean, sorry, can you hear me? We get this feedback all the time. And I know it's not an excuse, but we're volunteer-based, and we forget to post and to write about it, which is not excusable. We try to reestablish our magazine on a quarterly basis. We did one quarter. We're probably due for another one. So we're trying to do more of that. And please do leave your.
Actually push others to be part of it.
Yeah, and as a donor, maybe you knew all of this information, but maybe not. Like, I'm sure a lot of this information was new to you, La. And that's not right. You know, you should, all of our donors and non-donors should have their hands on all the information that all the projects and where your money is going. Thank you for entrusting us.
I'm not worried about the money.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get more people involved.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I know. We've received that feedback. And for anyone in LA, the president is right here. We're always looking for volunteers. Anywhere else, truly, we're always looking for volunteers. Our chapters need the volunteers. On the national level, we need the volunteers. For media, for like everything, we need the volunteers. So we have a team that works really, really hard. It's truly like our second full-time job. But you know, we're always looking for help for things like that as well. We do need to get the word out more. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay, another question? Over here. You and then you? Is that okay?
Thank you all for your work. You mentioned the $900,000 year to date and a number of very admirable projects. And I was wondering if you could say a bit about the process by which you decide how to break down that money for these projects.
Yeah. So three different categories, I guess. Two of them are monthly support. So on a monthly basis, we send funds for our office to run the business there. So we have, we have a few individuals that go out to the villages to take surveys. We have Udrana that manages the microloans. People like this. So there's monthly financial support that we send to the office. Then there's the educational support. On a monthly basis, we send about $14,000 to keep the schools running, to pay for the teacher salaries and whatnot, instructor salaries. And then the third is our projects. And our projects, a couple of years ago, we established our project tracker, which is a shared Excel file, essentially. Assyrian Aid of Iraq enters information in there that includes what sector is the project in, what village, the project description, how many people will it impact, and the price range that it's at. And on a monthly basis, the executive committee, we have monthly meetings, and depending on the funds that we have that month, we decide on how many projects we can select, and we kind of they put a priority for us as well, whether it's urgent. Sometimes there's urgent projects that we need to review. Sometimes like A priority, B priority, whatnot. So we'll select those. And then from that list as well, there's donors that reach out and say, I'm interested in supporting some a micro, a business, or I'm interested in supporting a women-run business, whatever it may be. So we have this project tracker that at our fingertips that we can select projects and pass it on to them.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
We also have community events within our chapters, and often we do them for specific projects, or we have our project list of the priorities that we have, and people will donate. For example, we had donors that funded for special needs and disabled children in Atra, and so that money was designated for that project specifically.
Excellent talk, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Can you guys hear? Okay. My question is about healthcare. You did an excellent job about describing the medicines we have and kind of primary care. But where do our people go for routine outpatient surgery, like cataract surgery, for instance? And the reason I ask this is because we have several surgeons in this convention now that want to help, but we need to know what infrastructure exists, what we have to bring with us. So where do our people get routine surgery as it is now?
Maybe Joe can also answer this. He's probably done his research traveling with Gishru. Probably the government-run hospitals, but again, that's if you can pay out of pocket, typically. But we should talk after this, because I know that there are some, in speaking with the doctor in Iraq that goes with the mobile clinic, there are some legalities there, so you'd have to go through some sort of screening, or anybody who's from the diaspora wants to go there and do any kind of routine surgeries. So there is potential for collaboration, so we should definitely discuss it. But if Joe wants to add maybe any details to that, I do know that it's usually in the government-run hospitals.
Sure.
But sometimes people don't get the surgeries if they don't have
Sure. It's a two-tiered system in Iraq. So there's a public, which is government-run, very poor services, a lot of delays, and a private system. So everyone tries to get into the private system to do any routine care, even like emergency care, because the government hospitals are really poorly funded, really not much access, actually, even though it is public. They just don't have a lot of services to provide. And so there's all these stories whenever we go there, for the surgery, we don't want to do the government because once there's a story, people share it, and it's true, though. It is a poor service. So this is something that definitely in society, and a lot of us that have been to Iraq, especially physicians, we see it a lot in a lot of other countries. They do mission trips and medical missions. They'll send teams of surgeons and physicians to care. They'll do around the clock, around the month. They'll have people on rotation. That's something that we have to brainstorm and do together. Now that we have a pretty solid base of physicians now to provide the service there, because it is a need. That's definitely a truth that it's a need. We could go for one more question, and then before we turn it over to the next panel. Unless no one has any more questions. They did such a great job, right? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Welcome to Assyrian National Council of Illinois. Where we provide home care services for the elderly 60 years and older. For over 20 years, ANCI has worked closely with the state of Illinois to strengthen and expand our home care program. We currently service the Chicagoland area, including Cook, Kane, and DuPage counties. If you are interested in finding out more about our home care services, please visit us at our Chicago or Streamwood office.
إيمان وايلة أكسيدنت اتنرابة ناشة ليطي متبال سلطة الشكلي. اتلا نسيانة بدنا كيسس injury law و بيالباية قريمخ. إن آتن ينكل بتت بيتا خزموخن يطانة اتلوخن بوقارة مخبرون المنيان التلفون 8 أربع شوا وچو 8 تري وچو 5 خا يعني توكن بيت injuryrights.com. شمي إلى توني كالغراكس كيام زمن لشان خلية يما